So one of the things we want to look for textual evidence, really your key thing is start looking for the evidence in forms of citation and paraphrasing. So we'll go ahead and highlight those first just as a shortcut. So where do we see those? Where do you see evidence? Vanessa, where did you say?
Well, the first one is the professor of MIT, Cheryl Turkle.
Okay, so we've got the Sherry Turkle example. We've got a professor. What were you going to say, Brent?
I was just going to say
Highlight the whole thing. Okay. We'll just go with what are kind of our signposting of them.
Is it evidence, though, if it's really position? Like it's a very positional paragraph?
Let's look at that next then. Let's first identify all the places where there's evidence, and then let's talk about how the evidence is being discussed. So Freeman Dyson. So we've got this name of a physics professor. We also can just look for those citations. That's usually my shortcut. I look right for citations. It's kind of my trick. I also start looking for quotes. Quotes stand out. They're pretty easy to find. And then I kind of look at what's going on around the citation. Okay. So now, Morgan, tell us what you were going to say about that.
Has it made you factual that those people said those things, but it doesn't necessarily mean what they're saying is academic evidence or something, because it's all opinion.
Okay, so tell us give us an example. Like,
Technology is a gift of God.
okay, this one right here in one he states. So let's look at this closely about how let's start with the first piece, the Sherry Turkle one. So we've got a professor at MIT, Sherry Turkle, believed that through the internet use, humans could learn to enhance the worlds we live in. So the author is telling us this particular expert believes something, right? So it's kind of it's not saying the author believes this. It's telling us this is one of the positions that they're relying on. Okay, through the internet use humans. She discusses the concept of assuming different online identities. So she discusses, that means, okay, summary, right? This is summary information. Then we've got, and more capable of personal growth. Okay. Then we have the next one. Freeman Dyson, a physics professor and author, gave a series of lectures to fellow colleagues. I'm not sure if we need to know all this information. Does it help us to know? What do you need to know about this?
You need to know that there is a point of view for technology that supports the connections it does make for people.
Okay. I guess one thing I was asking is, do we need to know that the lectures are to other colleagues? Like, I don't know if I need to know that unless it was important that it was an insider audience. So I'll just kind of cross it out for now. But a physics professor, he gave lectures, and in those lectures he states this technology is a gift of God. He states, so it's they say, after the gift of life, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now tell us, Morgan, tell me more about where you're going with this.
Well, his evidence after making these claims, he says if all countries can hope for economic justice, what does that have to do with what his paper's talking about in his thesis?
Or it sounds like I think he's trying to say that Dyson thinks that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not clear. It sounds like he's saying that.
Okay.
Or she.
Or she, the author. So let's look at, now this is where signposting is important. This is why I say we might look at signposting now. Let's look at all the little words that start off each sentence, and as you're a reader, learn to look for these kinds of things. Are the sentences telling you it's an argument or it's summary? Is it describing what someone else is doing, or is it saying, now that so-and-so said this, let's evaluate it? Is it showing you its interpretation? So in one thing he states, okay, states is summary, right? So we'll just put summary. His optimistic opinion saw digital technology as a solution. So his opinion saw something, which sounds like summary. Although there is a little evaluation in saying that it's optimistic, it's kind of making a sympathetic kind of thing, as opposed to saying something like his stupid opinion, right? Which would show us that the author disagrees. You guys laugh, but I saw this in a paper kind of before. Okay. He believed that the poor could become rich. So he believed something. Again, this is summary of his beliefs. Okay. And then we have, after the quote, we have, if all countries could hope for justice, there would be no fighting in the world, find its peace. So is that a summary? What is that statement? Effective instruments for achieving a more just distribution of wealth among the nations of mankind. If all countries could hope for economic justice. Is this the author's opinion, or is this more summary?
I think
he's trying to
say
analyze.
that Dyson, but
Like,
it's just not clear.
I'm all
He's
looking
trying
at
to explicate.
you. You go.
I think he's trying to explicate and explain what the guy is saying because
Uh-huh.
his quote is kind of.
How about, let's say the author.
Not the author, but the quote that he's using is kind of flowery. So I think
The
that
quote that the author's using?
yes,
Okay.
the quote, what's quoted in there is kind of flowery language,
Uh-huh.
and then the author is trying to explicate the meaning of it and put it in context of the paper.
Okay. Is that following what you're thinking too, Chelsea?
Yeah, it's just not clear. Like, they need a statement. The author needs a statement saying, like, so he's basically saying.
Right. In other words, or
Yeah.
there's some kind of, we need some kind of signpost. We need some kind of shift.
Like, I believe, or he said,
Yeah.
so that we know who's talking.
Is that what you're going to say too, Allie?
I was going to say, if the author
Mhm.
rewrites to say, if all countries could hope for economic justice, or Dyson believes there would be no fighting in the world.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So we know there's this kind of, it's probably Dyson believes, or
Because especially the bottom, he says,
Yeah.
like,
Dyson has related the use.
well,
To a higher
his
power.
opinion is certainly optimistic. Technology is not going to solve the world's problems. So the author clearly does not agree with what Dyson said.
And that's
Mhm.
the only time you find out that opinion.
Yeah. Weird.
Dyson's related use with
Because
his,
you talk about Dyson,
right
and
here.
You don't say Dyson, and then you say Dyson again.
Mhm.
So you just need to be clear.
So we've got this is what you guys are saying. While his lofty opinion is certainly optimistic, this does give us a signpost that it's interpreting Dyson, yeah? It's not going to solve all the world's problems. What was the thesis here? Do you guys remember? Was it around solving the world's problems? Do you remember?
Like social connection.
So I'll go back in a second because I'm actually recording this part, and so I'm going to stop it before I go back. If the thesis is about social connection, this is all about solving the world's problems. So now I don't see the explicit connection yet to the social connection. I would want some language around that too. And why does that matter for social connection? The other thing is, what you should notice about this particular paragraph is it's providing mostly summary. There's not very much interpretation and explanation yet of the textual evidence. It's trying to work it out, but it's spending a lot of time still summarizing what others have said, which means we still want to know a little bit more. Actually, this is right where I'm starting to say, oh, okay, his opinion is lofty, but certainly optimistic. So, but it's not going to solve the world's problems. So then what? So what is he saying? What are you making of that? Tell me more, tell me more. This is where I want more, right? I want to hear a little bit more explanation about why does this matter to you? Now that you've read this, what do you make of it? I remember during writing conference, this person was very interested in the fact that this person was using like rhetoric of God and like comparing technology to God. Like this was like, technology is God. Like that was a really big thing. And they were like, hey, that's kind of going a bit far. But I don't see any discussion about this going too far in this interpretation yet. I know it was in the person's head because I talked to them about it, but I haven't yet seen it worked out here. So that's what we're going to want as readers, is to hear that next part, right? Because there's obviously some good evidence. Now, the other thing is, what happened to Turkle? She was presented in the beginning as about different online identities, teaching us to be flexible, creative adults, tolerant of diversity. But this whole paragraph is really moving into a discussion of Dyson at the end and what he believes. We forgot all about her. Why is she in here? A great synthesis of the evidence would make a sentence that shows us, while Turkle is interested in identities in the digital world, Dyson is much more interested in how it's supposed to save us. That would show synthesis about why both of these were here and why they're in the same paragraph. And that, what should we do with that? And then back to the thesis. That make sense? Everybody's nodding. Maybe. I'll go read. I'll look at this later.